All right, today's lesson, we are using graphs to compare relationships. So this time we are looking at a graph that has two lines on it. So we're looking at two different relationships. So let's just build on what we know so far, what we have been learning. So these are, if you can decide which one's proportional, we know that this one is proportional because it starts at 0, 0, and it's a straight line. Okay. We also know that all the points on the line give us pieces of information. So we know that this one is comparing time and water used, or the gallons used. So this little point right here, or each point on this line, gives us a piece of information. So if I were going to tell me the coordinates of this point, I would look over, I'd go over 7 up to 35. So the coordinates of this one are 7, 35. Okay. So that tells us information. That means in 7 minutes, they use 35 gallons. Okay. So I can use that information then, because it's proportional, I can use that information to figure out what my constant is. So if this is my x value and this is my y, remember my constant is my y over x. So I would simply write 35 over 7, which equals 5. So my constant is 5. Okay, so that's a way to find your constant on a proportional line. You can also, we talked about yesterday, if they give it to you on the graph, here's 1, and there's my constant right there, 1. And it is, yep, it's 1, 5. That's my constant, okay? So if the graph gives it to you, then that's another easy way to see your constant, okay? Whatever the 1 value is here. Because your constant is just basically your unit rate. So in 1 minute, they use 5 gallons of water. Okay, if I know that, I can easily write my equation. So y equals 5x. Okay, y equals 5x. If we were doing it in terms, maybe the letters that they use, if this was time and gallons, maybe it would be 5 times my water, or sorry, 5 times the minutes would equal the gallons used. Okay, would equal my gallons. All right, and then we know this one over here is not proportional because it does not start at 0, 0. Okay, it's a straight line, but doesn't start at 0, 0. All right, so let's look at now having two different relationships on the same graph. So if we're looking at this one, it says batting cages, which batting cage represents a proportional relationship, which I know that you can do. So we're looking at the number of pitches and the cost at these two different locations, at Fun Center and the Softball Plus. Okay, so obviously which one is proportional? It would be the red line, the Fun Center. Okay, it's proportional because it starts at 0, 0 and it's a straight line. Okay, let's use these points to help us out. Let's look at something. Let's look at this one right here. Let's look at this point right here. Okay, so if I look at this coordinate, we go over 8 up to 2. So this is 8, 2. Okay, let's use that point to help us figure out the constant. So again, this is my x value, this is my y. So y over x would give me 2 over 8. So that equals a fourth. Okay, so my constant is a fourth. Because if I come over here and look at 1, I can't really be for sure what that answer is. So this point is going to help me. Okay, so I can easily now write my equation, y equals 1/4 x. Okay. Now, if you look over here, the blue one, we can't really write that equation, but I want you to know that since it's not starting at 0, 0, that just means like probably to start, to go into Softball Plus, you got to pay $3 before you even start, before you even throw a pitch. Okay. All right, let's keep it going. So let's look at another one here. You always want to look at the axis first. So this is comparing hours and dollars earned. Okay, so we're looking at two different people, Marco and Kel. So this one here tells me, you always want to look at 1 first. Do they give you the constant? So in 1 hour, Marco makes $7. In 1 hour, Kel makes $8.40. So obviously, Kel's making more money. Good job, Kel. Yay. Okay. So look at the steepness of that line there. Okay, look at the steepness of that line. That kind of helps you to see that his line is going up steeper, which means his constant is higher. His constant is going to be greater. Okay, let's just say, let me see if I can get a line. Let's see if I drew another line like this. Let's see if I went like that. Okay, if I did that line, obviously this guy is going to make in 1 hour, they're making a lot more, okay? They're making a lot more because his line is steeper. Whereas, let's say if I put another person on here, let's see. If I put this little guy here, oh no. In 1 hour, this little guy is only making $2. So this guy is not making much money, okay? So the steeper this line here, that means your constant's going to be greater, okay? All right. So let's just do a little review here. All right, so we're looking at blueberries at 2 different stores. So always look at the axis. We're looking at weight and the cost. Okay, so there's 2 things on here that you can kind of look at. This one is saying they're comparing the points that have the same X or the same Y value. So they're first going to look at 212 and 312. So 212 and 312. So they're going to look at those 2 points first. So that tells us for $12, so they're looking at the cost of $12. So for $12, store A, this one here, they have to pay they get 2 pounds of blueberries. But store B, for 12 pounds, they get 3 pounds of blueberries. So they get more blueberries, okay? They get more blueberries for the $12, okay? You can also look at these 2 points here, the constant here. So over here for 1 pound of blueberries, store B, it's $4, so that's cheaper. But for store one, or for 1 pound, store A, they charge $6. So their constant is higher, which means their price is higher. Okay? All right. Take some time and kind of look at that and read through the rest of these really quick. Okay, so take some time. All right, next one. All right, I want you to look at this one. We're looking at the weight of tomatoes and the cost, weight versus cost here, okay? So this is 2 different lines, and what I want you to do is I want you to see if you can figure out which line represents the fruit world and which one represents the Veggie Mart. Okay, looking at this. I'm gonna pause the video, you pause the video, see if you can figure it out. All right, so hopefully you looked at that right before that 0.6 times the weight or the 1.115 times the weight, that is simply your unit rate or your constant. That's your constant. So come over here and figure out your constant right here. Okay, this is your constant. So for 1 pound, this is one of the stores, this is the other store. So which store was over 1? That's this one right here. This one has to be the 1.15. So this has to be the veggie. And this one 0.6, which was a little bit above half, which this is a half. That's a half. So that has to be the fruit world. Okay. All right. If you have questions on that one, let me know. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start you off with your Desmos activity. This was kind of building on what we did the day before with Tyler. So this is one of the slides on your Desmos. So I'm going to start you off with this. So Diego, Lynn, and Mai went from the ticket booth to the bumper cars. So here's some information you're going to use. Diego left the ticket booth at the same time as Tyler. Diego jogged ahead at a steady pace. That steady pace is important. That means it's constant. Okay, and reached the bumper cars in 30 seconds. All right, so you want to look at the information they gave you, which is right here. This is the information they gave you. So you're going to use that information to help you find whatever his constant is. Okay, so remember, this is my x value, this is my y value. So my x over my y would be 50 over 30. If I simplify that, that becomes 5/3. So that's my constant. So right here, my constant, that's 1, means that's my constant. So 1, and then that would be 5/3. Okay? So that means that's what I'm multiplying by every time is 5/3. That's my constant rate. Okay? So then you just come up here and you multiply. So 0 times 5/3 would still be just 0. Okay? And then 15 times 5/3, that's why our review today was about multiplying fractions. So that would be, if you multiply straight across, that gives me 75 over 3. which equals 25. Okay? Now remember, if they give you this value and you go that way, then you're doing the opposite of multiplying by 5/3. You're dividing by 5/3, okay? Which means you have to keep, change, flip, right? All right, let's review the lesson really quick. Okay, so remember, important things. So the steeper the graph, the larger the constant. So if you look at this one right here, this one is a steeper graph, so that means that constant is has a greater constant, okay? Looking from here to here, that also gives you pieces of information. That means that this one, in the same amount of time, this one took longer to get to this distance. This one took longer, okay? All right, last thing, our lesson summary. We know that the steeper the graph of two proportional, it has a larger constant, and we can compare two proportional relationships on a graph, okay? I'm gonna have another lesson summary, a quick 3-minute one if you want to look at that, all right? If you have any questions, let us know. Have a great day, guys.